Hey guys, welcome to the Martial and Healing Arts channel. I'm Rafe Kelly, founder of Evolve Move Play. I'm extremely excited to be sponsoring this channel. Martial and healing arts have been key aspects of embodiment and self-cultivation for thousands of years. I have some of my best friends in the industry, Rory Miller, Matt Thornton, Edward Hines presenting here, and I'm really excited to share what they have to say with you guys. You're gonna love it. So Evolve Move Play is an ecology of practices of movement, mindfulness, nature connection, and community. And within the movement, we have a big emphasis on moving in nature and being able to do parkour. We also like to lift weights and throw things around, but there's a huge aspect of martial arts, and I've been training martial arts since I was 6 years old. So it's really exciting to be able to sponsor this channel in particular. If you're interested in my work, check out my talks on the main stage and the Movement Anatomy channel. If you can't get to either of those live, you can check us out at Rafe Kelly on Instagram, get all your awesome embodiment giveaways, and for now, just enjoy this amazing channel. It's gonna be an awesome show.
Excellent. All right, welcome back, everybody. It is now my privilege to introduce to you Elizabeth Andes Bell and Bruce Bell and their talk on our evolving body. They began as dancers and choreographers in New York City and eventually became senior faculty at the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. They are pioneers in the exploration of movement and the human energy field for 40 years. They have more recently become immersed into fascial conditioning and biotensegrity. They are the inventors of the Ico ball and creators of a somatic training method called Evolutionary Somatics. Thank you very much for being here with us today, and we're excited to hear this.
Hello, everyone. We are really happy to be with you today.
Hi there.
So, yeah, we've been together for 40 years, and I think really what brought us together was our mutual love for movement and consciousness and where those two things interact. And I don't think there's really been a day that we've been together that we haven't explored that or at least talked about that in some way.
Yeah, it certainly might be one of the founding principles of a good marriage. To have something in common that you just totally love and are committed to.
Right. It helps get through some rough times, believe me. So, one of the things that we discovered early on together in our dance career was that we, as hard as we would try, we could not put into a choreographed form, what was emerging improvisationally for us in the studio. And we struggled with that for a really long time until finally we got to the point where we said, it's not the nature of what we do. We're working with something much more ephemeral, mercurial than that. We never stepped into the same river twice. And I guess the touchstone for me was if it didn't feel right, if it didn't feel alive, if I didn't feel alive doing it, it felt like a dead form to me.
We were improvisational artists in that sense.
Yeah.
Always, it kept redefining itself, not us, it kept redefining itself. So it would be a one experience, and then you would try to go back and repeat the experience, and you couldn't repeat the experience. And this was long before anybody was talking about what the nature of presence is, other than maybe a little bit of Ram Dass here and now. But it kept changing. And so it is still changing.
It is.
And it's delightful.
And so, this kind of has led us to say, okay, well, what does embodiment feel like? Because at first it came up as a word, and I'm wondering a lot to myself, well, what does that person mean by embodiment? And what do I really mean by embodiment? And so,
right.
For me, I remember a time in my life when I was 8 years old, and I was in my bedroom, and this big thunderstorm came through, and massive lightning and thunder, and I took it in with my whole being. I experienced it, and I felt so alive. I immediately sat down and wrote a poem about it, just to kind of capture the sensation of what that was like. And that's when I think I really felt, I remember when I felt embodied for the first time. Not defined by my culture or my family or, you know, my 8-year-old sense of self, whatever that was, but just this living force of possibility and potential and power that was nature herself. And I think it's really useful for us to remember when that awareness clicked for us, and to remember when we remembered.
Mine was much more subtle. No poems came out of it. I think I was in 5th grade and I'd been reading A Wrinkle in Time. And I was out by the edge of a hayfield, just sitting there on a beautiful, you know, summer day. And I saw the top of the wheat, you know, moving in a wave pattern.
Mm.
And somehow I was suddenly immersed in the whole, the gestalt of the wave field, of the wind, of the sky, the smell, the senses. And I just had a little glimpse of peace, you know. It's just a little glimpse, maybe, you know, a microsecond, but I never forget it. Because I think those are moments where you touch your soul.
Absolutely.
And the soul does not forget.
So if any of you have a moment like that you can just type into the chat and share with us, when did it click for you? When did you have that moment where you said, oh, God, I'm alive, I'm in my body, I feel life inside me?
Sometimes people don't recognize until someone reflects it back to them.
Yeah.
And so there might be that moment. I'm sure everybody's had some moment in their lives where either you had experienced it initially on your own or it was reflected back to you. And in that moment, you had the awareness, yes, that is me. So important.
Yeah, Arya says that she was 8 years old when she had it, and she wrote a poem about it. She was also 8.
8-year-old writing a poem, Arya. Amazing.
I can remember mine as well, actually. I remember, I can't remember the age, but I remember watching the ants as they were in a line and carrying their little bits of food or whatever. And I felt connected and alive with that nature, even though it was so small.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that whether we remember it or not, this is a part of human experience. And it's a vital part of human experience because it's a part of our consciousness. You know, there is a part of us that is always conscious of our experience, but it's not burdened with content. It's not burdened with our thoughts about things, our emotions, our past experiences of things. When we have content that is consciousness that has content in it, it shapes us. It shapes our perception. It narrows us in terms of what we're sort of attuning our radar to pick up. And in doing that, we might hone in on not experiencing certain things, but we also close off the potential to experience other things.
You know, for me, Whispering Dragons talks about the unknown known. And there's those moments where I can't put it into words, but certainly the sense of presence is everywhere. And those are, you know, In fact, you don't even want to necessarily try to make those known because you'll distract them and you'll reshape them, trying to give it a form that actually does not have a form like that.
So in our practice of evolutionary somatics, one of the things that we do is that we work to experience bringing the senses alive again in titrated ways that feel safe. But one of the ways that we start off with is going into the inner sensing realm, introception, to really dive back into that aliveness, that freedom, that moment of remembering our what we call our Mesokinetic Core. But that's a big word, and I'll unpack that for you in a second. But it is this living intelligence that is the river of life that is always there. We might not always hear it, and we can attune our hearing to feel it, sense it, taste it, anchor ourselves more into it, but it's always there. And what I mean by the Mesokinetic Core is that it's not like mesoderm, which, is that mid layer in the embryonic phase, but it comes from mesenchyme, which is, I guess you could describe it like an embryonic stem cell. It has this stem cell potential to become whatever it needs to become, an ear, a knee. It can adapt itself and manifest that potential as it's needed. And kinetic meaning it's in a moving sea. It's in us. It's always moving. So when we talk about the core, a lot of times we just tend to think about it as, oh, it's in my midline. Well, very important. Yeah, it is. But it's also in our fascial matrix. The whole web of our collagen matrix that has woven and holds us. It's in the many forms of fiber and layer and tissue of that. It's in the extracellular matrix, which is this fluid sea. It's in the intracellular matrix. So inside all the cells. So it is a continuity of potential and life that is, if you look into what the fascial anatomy really is, if you were to take a deep dive in that, which we don't have time to do today, you would discover a whole other you, a whole other anatomy that is quantum, and that is a continuum of microfibrils that are constantly reshaping and creating themselves in patterns and along principles that all biological organisms follow. And it's actually conducting biophotonic light. It brings intelligence into our bodies. And when we don't move or our fascia gets gluey and sticky and matted, which happens in a lot of situations, age, injury, stress, repetitive motion, the glue and the fascia kind of hold the old patterns energetically and physically. But when we begin to move, then we release the fluids, the fluid nature of us, because we're actually, when we're talking about the fascial body, and believe me, when I talk about the fascial body, language doesn't even do this justice, because it's all of you. It's held in everything. There's no separating the fascial body from the musculoskeletal body. There's none of that anymore. But when we actually begin to move and those fluids start to release, we are changing the gelatinous part of us into fluid. So we're shape shifting. We're not solid, we're not liquid, we're not gas. We're actually the fourth state of matter that can shift. And I come back to this question of who's shifting? Where's the will? Where's the decision to shift? Like, what part of our conscious awareness is saying, okay, can I participate in my own coevolution? What can I explore without a preconceived emotion, thought, or concept about this, but simply put myself into an experience where I am witnessing, where I am experiencing, and where I am holding open in a compassionate, loving sense of curiosity about what's possible for us as humans. Like, where's the ceiling, and where can I expand myself beyond that limitation?
Well, you've covered the gamut. Now, where am I in all of this, in this soft matter physics body? That's a continuum, that's a fluid realm, that's interchangeable, and things wave through it and shift what their function is and become another function and another function, and they work together in harmony. And then there's the energetic intelligence along with this biomatrix intelligent form, which is a mutable form.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, it's a living form, and therefore it's an evolving form. Like how could you, we were dancers and trying to put a form on something, and you realize the reason that you can't is because it's an evolving form. And when you're evolving, things get more complex. As they get more complex, they need to come back into the whole. They need to become and develop into a coherency so that everything's always part of the one. And so you were asking about then, will and so forth like that. These are, now we're getting into the levels of energetic consciousness. Who's here? And I think the biggest thing about this is that, yes, we are participants in this. We're going through the living matrix, the living body, and yet our consciousness is a participant in evolving that body.
Yes.
Or this species.
Right. And we're not doing it alone. There are principles of biological organization that all life takes, and we can be mindful of how we participate or violate those principles. But one of the most important ones that I get great comfort from is this idea that it might look like chaos, but it's not. That there is actually a template, a geodesic, divine geometric template of the way that organisms organize themselves and live in cells that become organs, that become bodies, that become whole civilizations, where the way they can abide by these laws ensure the health and vitality of the whole. So you know, for me, there is a great leap of faith necessary to say, okay, the little me feels like she has to control everything and put up the best face and choreograph this and be clever in that way, and that little me doesn't even have a clue about the scale of order, the immensity of beauty and cooperation and organization of what's possible when we allow ourselves to soften and explore how to swim in this great river.
Well, that's bringing us now to an experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But as we talk about embodiment, we could go on and on and on about these ideas and get excited about it. Yes, we do. But getting back to the Mesokinetic Core,
Yeah.
the core it's not a one point. It's the core of essence. It's not a place in the body. There's not a one-centeredness. There's a passing through. And so these are they are experiences, though, that we could identify. And when we begin to identify an experience, we bring our light of awareness to it, it magnifies it. We see it in a different light. And once we have the magnification and the awareness of it, we can begin to build upon it, because we could ask questions and have a dialogue with it, as we've covered a little bit. And then that allows new forces to be present and new experiences to be present. So we can keep on redefining what this term embodiment is for us. Because it's not the same, embodiment's not the same for you as it is for me. Because I'm going to put my interpretation and my experiences on it, and you are going to do the same. And that's how we're evolving, because we're not separate in that quest.
So let's dive in to our experience. I want to do a little demonstration first, and then we'll do some stuff together. And then we'll go down to the floor. If you don't want to do the floor, just do it sit in your
You can
chair.
sit.
Yeah.
So here's the shift, right? Here's the shift from us talking and now going into a more introspective experience.
Yes.
Allowing the mind to shift its perspective now.
Right now,
and
you
pay
can
attention.
feel the settling in before we've even done it.
Yeah.
A lot of the work of evolutionary somatics is really inspired by continuum. And the work of Emily Conrad, the late Emily Conrad, and as it continues with continuum movement. And one of the beautiful things that continuum holds is this idea of using sound and breath to resonate the fluid nature of us. So this is a little adaptation of a breath. I call it the gut tube O. And what I want you to do, well, I'll do it once, and then you can do it with me a couple times. Just very lightly, you're going to place your hands on your belly, your gut. And the gut tube, in the embryo, you have the three layers, and the gut tube is the frontal layer, and it runs from the mouth all the way through the intestinal tract down to the anus, and then in between you have the mesoderm, let's call it the mesokinetic layer, and then in the back you have the notochord, or the primitive spine. So in this breath, I'm going to lightly feel the vibration in my gut tube and see if that resonates deeper into that mesokinetic layer. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Don't have any expectations. But I make a sound, and I want to drop down in my experience as low down my gut tube as I can get. Wherever you end up is, I'm sure, just fine. And then just let yourself drop into the sensation.
I feel a deepening down from the base of my spine up through the back of my jaw.
Feel a gentle wave moving the back of my neck.
I feel happier, more solid.
My belly feels more alive, more tingly, more spacious.
I feel more full, more present.
My face, all across my eyes are under the bridge of my nose, and my cheeks feeling more open, the back of my head feeling like it's floating lighter. My feet feel really strong. So let's take this down to the floor, and we'll do some movement. We're going to focus on the movement for interoception, for diving deep in to the inner body sensation. So we're going to move the chairs a little bit out of the way. You might have to tell me how far back to go, Bruce. Is that good?
That looks good.
Okay. Okay, so lying down on your backs, just coming into a starfish position. Your arms and legs are extended, if that's comfortable for you. You only do as much as feels right for your body. You know, you take care of yourself. This is very gentle and slow, but don't let your body be forced into some position that it doesn't want to go into. So I like to start with just a few heel rocks to help me settle in a little bit. And I'm just rocking back and forth on my heels with a minimal amount of energy, minimum amount of effort. You know, if you think that a lot of effort in your feet and your calves to get this motion is like a 7 or an 8 on the scale of 1 to 10. Can you dial it back and keep dialing it back to maybe a 2?
Less and less effort.
Maximum efficiency with minimal effort, one of those biological principles. Oh, and then the body will just kind of do its own release, and then you can just let it stop.
You actually started to hydrate the body to bring the electrical magnetic charge. You amped it up a little bit.
And now I'm dropping into here and now I'm feeling, one of the 5 basic skills that we teach to help you find first order sensation. What sensation am I feeling? What sense of tingle and flow and open and spread begins to move through me that I can experience and witness?
The sense of weight.
And this starts to bring me in touch with that living core, that aliveness, that awareness without any content. It's just the experience of my own aliveness, tingling.
An inner space that opens. Or perhaps a slight little pain.
And then I'm going to bring my feet up, knees bent, standing feet on the floor. And you want to find the right distance for you between your butt and your heels so that you're comfortable. And you might want to just do a little bit of a rock here as well, just to kind of help your body settle in a little bit more. This is constructive rest, this position. And in this position, you want to allow the places in your body that might be holding habitual tension, maybe in your shoulders or your back. What happens if I let that go, even just a bit, and let my body settle and allow the surface beneath me to begin to rise up and gently hold me, cradle me, maybe under my head and my shoulders.
So spreading out. A first order experience. A sense of some sort of pressure. A feeling.
And I let my pelvis soften against the floor. And the muscles around my hips and thighs release, even just a little bit.
And when your awareness goes to one of those places, what happens then?
Then you're using minimal energy and maximum efficiency to let yourself now come into aligning yourself with the floor beneath you, what my feet, I'm starting to play with my points of contact in the toes and the balls of the feet and the heels, and really noticing the texture of the floor.
Your feet are becoming more magnetic.
The sense of the floor, the pressure of the floor pressing into me. And I press back. I explore what's it like to really receive and then press without gripping.
You become a participant.
And I open up the bottoms of my feet and I allow the response, the support, to move up my legs, into my pelvis, and through my body. And I begin to align myself with my main source of support here, the floor, but below that, the earth. And I broaden that awareness into the whole room and beyond that into the environment outside of the room. And I begin to align myself with the wholeness of that.
Yes, as an outside observer, I see your body getting more full, and I see your energy field expanding around you. And I could feel that inside of myself as my own here and now experience. Because as I connect to you, I could feel myself becoming more full, in one sense, more embodied, more present.
It's like I have these energetic roots, like mycelium extending down into the earth, and rising up through me is a wave of energy. And that wave is beginning to move my body.
Right, your breath is getting more full, your chest is lifting, and of course, any movement anywhere in the body is the whole body moving. So a wave is beginning to move through your body, and you're allowing it to move wherever it wants to move in a connected sense.
And at first it's a longitudinal wave. It's moving all the way up my legs and into my pelvis and up through my spine to my crown. But then, it's not linear. It begins to shift, and I notice that my pelvis is starting a little side to side figure 8 movement, and that seems to want to diagonal its way up my ribs toward my shoulders. And so I'm not creating a pattern. I'm simply aligning myself with what is available here to me now, and how does that open me and shift me and move through me as I'm able to make more and more contact with what is here present now for me.
And so more of a flow is beginning to happen in this place where no part of the body is separate from the other. And it has a rhythm and a cadence to it of connectivity. You might even call it an emotion. Not a emotional reaction, but a motion of energy moving through you.
So I'm just following the wave now. And I'm noticing that it's starting to subside. And so I'm going to honor that. And I'm just coming into a moment of augmented rest. What do I mean by that? Well, it's a term in somatics we hear a lot. But what I'm talking about is in this moment of quiet, it's not necessarily stillness. I let my sensory perceptions really expand into the space in my body and the field around me as much as it naturally does. I just bring my awareness and I gently augment a larger field of awareness in what I am experiencing as first order sensation. Then I'm going to take my hands to the belly and I'm going to do some of these gut tube O's and see if what may emerge from that is a flow of movement without content, without the mind telling me what to do, but just the body unfolding its own expression.
Right. The mind is giving you the opportunity as a curiosity to see what happens now. If I do this. And so as the observer from the outside, you've deepened in more deeply into the core. And the integration is coming from a deeper source. And the integration of your movement is becoming, moving from a deeper depth. Any sense of linearity has disappeared.
And there's a sense of expanding out and coming back in.
Right, the power of the wave has increased. The magnitude of the wave of the movement, which expands, pauses, and contracts. Like a breath. It is a breath.
And the body just will start to reach, but it's a sense of reaching that is from this living, moving river of the core.
Again, as the observer, and you have about a minute to go, Elizabeth, so we can come back. I am watching something beautiful. Like Ricky saw an ant farm and saw the ants all moving and connecting to each other. Well, this is what it's so like. It's just beautiful to observe, and it seems very natural. And all the rhythms and the harmonies and the geometries are all working together.
Well, I'm going to bring this to a close and come in again to an augmented rest. So I'm just going to feel here and now what I'm feeling in my body. In this moving core. But I'm also sensing that core pulsating in the whole web. Throughout my whole body and into this space around me.
So as you can see, it's not easy just to drop this deepening level of embodiment or the alternative of coming out and speaking.
I'm going to wrap it up now, and slowly, if you've been joining me, no need to rush. Just bring yourself back and make your way to sitting in a way that's gentle for you.
One of the things to keep in mind is that when you go into an embodiment journey, it's a sacred ceremony. It's a sacred gathering of forces that are not of your normal consciousness and asking for them to be present and for you to be present with them. And so you develop this relationship to do that. And as in ceremony, what you do is you give yourself a time element. And so we had a 15-minute ceremony here to enter into a space where you didn't have to be linear and trying to make things all happen, but to be the observer, the experiencer, to be present, and to allow that journey to have its own life within you.
Right. And what I want to mention is that to develop our interoceptive awareness, we use the continuum model of diving. This is what you do in continuum practice, but we are also taking it into the realm of the fascial body, and in the fascial body, you have so much richness. You have different ways of sensing. You have your ability to be out in the world and move in a functional way. And there's a kind of quality to the fascial body that we develop along with the interoceptive. And this is a quality of strengthening that web and getting that web nice and elastic so that it oscillates, as I was saying, it oscillates and entrains itself to your own unique signature rhythm.
So it's important to realize this was an
Interoceptive.
introspective and introspective aspect of a long list of skills to learn, because how do you bring that out into the world?
Yeah.
How do you find your rhythms to move out into the world, to move out into space? And what's that experience from here to here like? It's a different experience when the mind's very active and needing to do things, but not to abandon.
Not to abandon this.
Yes.
Because it's very important that we have an integral practice. We integrate our ability to be true to this place in us while we can enact our own evolutionary, authentic expression in the world, and be strong and push and make space when we need to, when it's called for, but still be able to be in touch with this living, moving source within.
We actually developed some tools to help people, one, do that, to experience and be able to hold your energy field into a shape and form that's fluid and has elasticity to it and a bounce to it, so you can move into the world without rigidity. But that's another story, because we are out of time, and Ricky's going to put up a slide, I believe, that'll tell you how to get in contact with us. And we do have
We have a free ebook for you
on embodied interoception. And that'll give you a guideline about 15 ways that embodied interoception can help you. And you can identify with that, maybe where you feel you are on that scale.
There it is.
Oh, good. I can't read it, but it is Evolutionary Somatics.
Free gift.
Freegift.com. And with that, at some point, we'll show you a whole other world is the fitness, the fascial fitness tools and aspects called ICOFIT, IKO-FIT.com. That's not up there, but it's another journey.
So Ricky, I'm wondering if there's any questions or comments?
Yes, and first of all, I would like to thank you both very much for that excellent session. I feel fantastic and very peaceful, and I can feel my energy moving, like you said. It's very nice to think of the fascia kinetically. It's such a wonderful take, such a wonderful take. And there is something that I wanted to read, because I don't feel like everyone got to read some of the feedback about the session. And it was actually Paula who said towards the end of the session, "I'm getting this insight that if it were all possible for every living human to open and soften their energy and their fascial bodies this way, we could live in a world that sustains life and does not destroy it. A greater organization where each being is a tuned string and an instrument of sonorous sound, and the instrument makes a better, more profound, and full giving sound to make more music, which then plays in an orchestra that brings peace, health, and harmony to the world."
Oh,
so beautiful.
Wow.
I agree.
Yes. And Paula, that living core, when you get it moving, I often feel like I'm playing my inner cello. So I so resonate with that. That is something that's so beautiful. Thank you.
We are one body. one earth, one body, one living body here.
I found that to be truly beautiful and so applicable to the situation. And yeah, many people in the chat are saying how beautifully that was done. Monkey O'Joy says that it's only 50 degrees in here, but after that, my lower back is incredibly warm.
Yeah.
So there must be a lot of good energy moving through and breaking up
We
this.
pick it up.
We
You
feel
say
you.
It is this one body. When we connect, we all start adding to it. Definitely.
Beautiful, beautiful. We have we want to continue the conversation, and so we have put the links to the Evolutionary Somatics into the chat, and everyone can continue that conversation through that, or you're welcome to join us in the coffee room or on the Facebook group to continue the conversation. A lot to digest and a lot to practice. This particular session and all the sessions from the conference will be free and available for 48 hours for you to practice again and take it in again. If you need more time to digest the information a little bit more slowly, you can certainly buy the library for this channel or for the entire conference. And that's a great way to say thank you to our organizers and speakers and everything for all of their hard work. And it's also what enables us to put the conference on for free for people, is when people buy the library. So we really do appreciate it. Again, all the links are in the chat to connect with Elizabeth and Bruce even further. And in our last minute, I would like to ask you guys one final question. And that is, Elizabeth and Bruce, what is your one final tip to help us live our most embodied lives?
Prayer and discipline. This is a practice.
I would say it only takes a second. It's really just pausing and feeling your breath and your connection to your body. It's always alive and moving and fresh. And no matter how panicked and in need of gripping onto something you might feel, it actually feels more safe to let down the holding and let the river move.
It's always there.
That again is just beautiful. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your energy with us. This has been a wonderful, wonderful session, and look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you for your great support.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you. This has just been such a great thing that you're doing. And let's make 2020 the year of embodiment. Let's take back this year.